Hey guys, what is up? Buzz here. Happy holidays to everyone. So in this video, we are going to talk about a router. To be exact, it's a Wi-Fi 6 router, and this is a brand from TPlink. This is what it looks like. Now this is the Archer AX23. It's a AX1800 dual band router. This is one of the budget Wi-Fi 6 routers that you can find now at the market. In this video, we're going to take a look at the design and build of this router. I'm going to show you how to set it up, and also let's get to know on what its key features are. Alright, so for those who are not familiar with TPlink, a little introduction about the company. It is founded at 1996. TPlink is a global provider of reliable networking and accessories. Now they are supplying distributions on about 170 countries. That's a lot of countries, and serving hundreds of billions of people worldwide. They are one of the world's leading companies in the networking industry, and they're actually quite famous here in Philippines for having like affordable and very reliable devices for your networking needs. Now let's go and unbox this thing and let's see what's inside. Now the packaging is quite good, and when you open it, you're gonna find the manual, and also there's a 12 volts adapter and the router itself. Now again, this is a AX1800 model. Now for the physical design, it has 4 fixed high-end antennas, which the specification said that it can cover up to 3 bedrooms, which I think it can, but the further away the room, of course, the lesser signal you're gonna get, which can also be fixed by Wi-Fi repeaters. Now this is a dual band router, so it has a 2.4 gigahertz and a 5 gigahertz connection. The design actually looks pretty neat. It's very modern. I just don't like the glossy part here because it's gonna attract a lot of fingerprints on it. The LED is not really distracting. There's some very neat groove designs here, and the back part where the LAN ports are located, it's properly arranged, and I really like the part that it has a switch button. Some routers don't really have that switch button here, which is the power button. And at the bottom part, it's actually very simple. There's also a slot here where you can mount this on the wall. Now the main features of this Wi-Fi 6 router, as specified in the box, is that it has a super fast 1.8 Gbps Wi-Fi, which can really help for 4K streaming and if you want short downloading times. Now this router has an OFDMA feature, which is exclusive to the Wi-Fi 6 routers, where they can cater more devices at the same time. In Wi-Fi 6 routers, they are just much more efficient and much more faster. It has a broader coverage because it really depends on the position on where you place the router in your house, and also how big your house is. It really depends, so I can't really say that for sure. But this router has a beam forming feature, which can improve the algorithm, and it has these 4 fixed high performance antennas to help you widen the coverage. Now it also has a parental control features where you can block some websites if you really need to. You can also block games if your children are playing during school time, and if you don't want them to play during the time, then this router can definitely help you with that. It works with most ISPs. Now, usually here in Philippines, we don't really have a problem with the ISPs, especially for TP-Link routers. Usually they're very compatible with PLDT, Globe, and Converge ISPs. Now, TP-Link also have this one mesh feature. Well, it's quite similar as a Wi-Fi extender, but for TP-Link's one mesh technology, if you have a couple of Wi-Fi repeaters from TP-Link that supports the one mesh, then it will be much more better than the Wi-Fi repeater, as the devices will get the nearest and most reliable signal when you walk around the room. So you'll enjoy smooth roaming between signals. Now it has an easy setup. Now TP-Link has been doing a lot of work on their configuration software so that even beginners or someone who doesn't really know about routers will know how to set it up. They have a 6-step quick setup, which I'm going to show it to you guys in a while. And they even created an app for that, which is called the Tether app, where you just scan the QR code and it's going to take you to that app, and you're going to set it up there on that application, where it's very, very simple. Now it's backward compatible. So even if this is a Wi-Fi 6 router, it doesn't mean that all your devices must be Wi-Fi 6. It will support all the 802.11 standard Wi-Fi devices. If you have an older devices, then you don't need to worry. It's just you won't be able to maximize your router since it has this Wi-Fi 6 features. Now I'm going to show you guys on how to set it up from start to finish. First, you need to have your ISP or your modem. Now this is the modem from PLDT. PLDT will disable all the ports here. So you have to call them to enable at least one of these ports so that you can connect your router on this LAN port. Now when one of these ports are already activated, you just need to insert one LAN here. And this one on the other end is going to your AX23, which is it's going to the WAN, which is the blue one here. Then from there, we will set up this router through our laptop, or you can also use your mobile phone using the Tether app or through browser. And don't forget to turn on the router. Alright, so now the basic part is done. It's time to go to our laptop or our mobile phone. For this case, I'm using my laptop. So first of all, in order to access the configuration, we must be connected to the router. It can be through wired, which is the LAN cable, or it can be through wireless, which is the Wi-Fi. Now I'm currently using a Wi-Fi. As you can see here, I'm already connected to the Wi-Fi of the AX23. Now if it's your first time to connect to the router, it will usually ask for a password. You can find the default password at the bottom part of the router where it says a wireless password pin, something like that. Now we are now connected to the Wi-Fi, and that means that we are now connected to the router. And that means that we can access the configuration. So the first thing we need to do is we just type in tplinkwifi.net. Now this is our first time to configure the router. It's going to direct you to the quick setup guide, which is pretty useful for beginners. So here, we're just going to set it to +8, which is either Hong Kong or Singapore here in Philippines. Click next. Now, usually if you're connected to the ISP modem, you usually just choose the dynamic IP. Or you can also check the auto detect. And it says here operation successful. Click next. As for the MAC, use default MAC address. Yes, next. Now this part here, the Smart Connect. Now dual band routers usually have two Wi-Fis. There are two networks. Now this Smart Connect feature is just like combining both of those networks so that you will only see one Wi-Fi name, but you'll be connected to the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz network. So if you uncheck this, you can see now that there's a 5 gigahertz and also a 2.4 gigahertz, which you can rename both differently. Now this option is really up to you. You can also use the Smart Connect if you want to, but for my case, I usually won't recommend it. I usually want to separate the 5 gigahertz and the 2.4 gigahertz, especially that I have a lot of smart devices here at my house, which is about 26 to 30 devices, and all of them are not able to detect 5 gigahertz network, which is quite complicated for my case. So I prefer them to be separate. Then let's click next. Now it's testing the connection for you. Settings applied successfully. Please reconnect the device to the router wirelessly or via the Ethernet cable before clicking next. Potential network issue detected. So it says here that we found another router on your network. This might cause double net issues. So let's just click on this option here. This router is independent of my modem, which is the PLDT modem. We highly recommend that you remove your old router and directly connect to your modem. Next. Now TP-Link Cloud Service. Now this is another feature from TP-Link where you can access it remotely via the Tether app that I've told you about. So if you want that feature, you can register the TP-Link Cloud Service and bind the router to your TP-Link ID. But for now, let's just skip it. And now that's done. I mean, if you're a beginner, you don't really have to adjust anything here. You can stop watching this video and the setup's done. But for advanced users, just stick around and let's take a look at the features here of this router. All right, so here you can find the Ethernet, the AX3, the router itself, which is, you can find some shortcuts here, the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz wireless. There's also a guest network, which, let's turn it off. You can also edit it here. This is more like a shortcut for everything. And here you can also see the CPU load and the memory usage. And here you can find, now this is very useful, you can find the Ethernet status here, down below, where you see all the LAN ports below here. Now mesh devices, unfortunately I don't have a repeater here that supports the one mesh feature, so let's just skip that. And the client, which is my laptop here. If there's like 30 devices connected to this device, then you can definitely see that here on the clients list. Now let's go to the internet, dynamic IP with a MAC address, and the wireless, which I've talked about earlier, about the Smart Connect, and the guest network down below. Now here is for advanced users. This is where you can find all the stuff that you really need to configure if you have to. Here you can see the status here, where how many days it's been online duration. Now here on the network, there's this common options here with the LAN, IPTV, DHCP server, DNS, and routing as usual for every routers. Now the TPlink ID, which I've talked about, the cloud. If you want to remotely access your router via the Tether app, then this is the place. Wireless, everything basic here, just the wireless settings, the Wi-Fi settings, the guest network, the wireless schedule, which is pretty cool. You can turn off the Wi-Fi at a schedule, which is pretty helpful for other people or families that are having an internet schedule. Now there's also a WPS option. And for the additional settings, well, there is an AP isolation, an airtime fairness, beacon interval. Here is the NAT forwarding, it's a port forwarding, there's a trigger, and the UPnP, and the DMZ. Now next is the parental controls, where you can create a profile name, add in the devices that you want to be inside that profile. Now there's also a content filter and the time controls. Next is the QoS, can prioritize the internet traffic of the specific device. Security, where you can find the firewall options, the access control, so that you can control whichever device that can access your network. The IP and MAC binding, and the ALG. What's the ALG? Application Layer Gateway settings. It's recommended to keep them as default. So TP-Link just recommended it to keep them as default. Now we also have a VPN server, the OpenVPN, PPTP connections. IPv6, which I don't really use here. Now for Smart Life Assistant, it has the Alexa. I'm not sure if it's compatible with Google. So these are for those techie people who have Alexa in the house. Now the next one is the One Mesh. You can actually turn it off and on, but I don't see why you have to turn it off. It's a feature that you want it to be there. Now the last one will be the system. The system part is very important. This is where you check your firmware updates for this router. You can also update it if you have the specific file for it. Now backup and restore. You can also restore the router settings from the factory default settings. Administration. Now here you can add a password for your router so that people who are connected to your router cannot access the configuration. There's also a password recovery, which is pretty small and great feature. Now there's a local management. Now it has a remote management, which is very, very useful too. System log here, diagnostics, and time and language. Now the reboot part, it has a reboot schedule, which is also pretty great. You can set a reboot time if you want your router to reboot and refresh the connections every day. You can do that here. There's also an LED control, which is, you need to adjust the LED since they're not really that too bright. And lastly is the operation mode. There are only two options here. I mean, some routers also have a Wi-Fi repeater option, but TP-Link only have access point mode. So that's something that you need to take note of. Alright, so that's about it for all the settings. As you can see, it's very, very clean, very easy to navigate on the configuration itself. So how about we do a quick speed test? Now for this speed test, I'm connected to the 5 GHz network. Now, sometimes it really depends on the device itself. So I'm also going to try to speed test it on my phone. So the name of the Wi-Fi is 98FF, which I'll be connecting to it. As you can see, we are now connected to the 98FF network. And we're going to do some speed test. Now we are now connected to the 5 GHz of the AX23. And the result is about 288 and 221. So sometimes it really depends on the devices. This laptop, maybe the Wi-Fi chip is not really that good. Also, I'm going to do another test, but that is through wired connection, not through Wi-Fi. Now, what's the pros and the cons? Well, now let's go first for the pros. The coverage is actually pretty good. These 4 antennas here are working very, very good. Compared to my other routers, which have 6 antennas or 8 antennas, it's actually giving me more signal on the same room compared to those routers. Now for the Wi-Fi 6 features, I can't really tell the difference as I don't have yet some Wi-Fi 6 devices here. My gadgets are not really that updated yet, and most of my laptops and my phones are using all Wi-Fi 5. But in the near future, usually you'll upgrade your devices and all the new devices will be supporting Wi-Fi 6, especially devices that will be released on 2022. And you don't usually replace your routers every year or every 2 years, so it will definitely come in handy when the time is right. Now for the LAN ports, it has all these 4 gigabit ports here, which is pretty good. And I really like the switch button here, the power on and off button here, which is really helpful when you need to restart the router and don't need to remove the adapter here. Now one of the pros is the configuration setup, where it's very, very easy and very clean to look at. You can see that it's very organized. TPlink have done a very good job on this. I don't usually use an app for configuring my routers, but for those people who are not really familiar with routers, that will definitely come in handy. Now let's go for the cons. Now the cons is more on the design. I mean, the design is okay. It got this modern aesthetic. It's just that it has this very glossy thing here, which is very, very dust magnet, and look at those fingerprints. I can't even remove the fingerprints here, but that's okay since I don't really take a look at my router every single time. Usually I keep my routers out of sight. Now another con is if you still have Wi-Fi 5 devices, it's just a waste that you can't use that Wi-Fi 6 features, where it has this OFDMA feature, which is pretty great. And the last con is it can't be a Wi-Fi repeater. Now some routers I've encountered, they have an option to be a Wi-Fi repeater. It only has a router option and an AP option, which sometimes it's really hard to make an AP, especially if you want to have an access point upstairs and you didn't prepare all the cables. Alright, so that's for the pros and cons. Now this router cost about $2,990. It's actually a very budget router considering that it's a Wi-Fi 6 features. Now if you want to buy this router, you can find the links down on the description below. They are now on sale starting on December 2021. Also don't miss my giveaway. I'll be giving away one of this AX23, which is sponsored by TPlink. You can also find the link down on the description below. The draw date will be on December 30, 2021. So it's actually just 15 days from now, and hopefully you'll be one of the winners. So if you're looking for a budget Wi-Fi 6 router with which packs a lot of features, then definitely check out this Archer AX23 from TPlink. You won't regret buying it. It packs with a lot of features. It's very easy to set up. Even if you're not very familiar with routers, you will still be able to set it up. Now, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button down below. And if you want to support my channel, you can always press that red button down there, which is the subscribe button. And if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to click that notification bell so that you'll get notified whenever I upload the video. Thanks for watching. Happy holidays to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.